Hi, grade 6. You have a pretty easy lesson today, but it's also a pretty difficult lesson today. What do you mean, Mr. Panko? I mean, we're going to have a situation where you need to learn another set of rules for how do we multiply integers. And the rules are actually pretty easy to learn, but the problem is very often sixth graders confuse the adding and subtracting rules for the multiplying rules. So please make sure you don't get confused by them. I'm going to pull out one of these sheets that you're supposed to still have. I hope you haven't thrown it away. The adding rules are right up here. The three blue rules right here are adding rules. This rule right here is a subtracting rule. But then down here, there's a green set of rules. Those are the multiplying rules. And those are the rules we're going to try to figure out today. Okay, so let's take a look. Rule number 1, really easy. You already know it. You already know it. If we're multiplying by a positive number, what kind of answer do we get? Positive 6, positive 4, you get a positive number, right? You've known that all along. You've known it since probably 3rd grade, maybe even 2nd grade. A positive 6 times a positive 4 is a positive 24, right? If I change the numbers, it doesn't matter. A positive 2 times a positive 10 is a positive 20. Positive number times a positive number is equal to a positive number. Second rule. What about a negative times a negative? Here's where students get confused. They think, oh, negative times a negative. That sounds like the adding rule of a negative plus a negative, which equals a negative, right? Yeah, that's the adding rule. In the world of adding, a negative number plus a negative number is a negative number. But this isn't adding. This is multiplying. Guess what? As freaky as it sounds, the answer is positive. In both of these cases, if it's a positive times a positive, the answer is positive. If the negative times a negative, it's still positive. I know. Weird. So if I take negative 3 times a negative 4, the answer is not negative 12. The answer is positive 12. If I take negative 10 times a negative 6, the answer is a positive 60. A negative times a negative is always a positive. If they take negative 5 times a negative 7, the answer is a positive 35. All of these answers are positive numbers, even though I'm multiplying two negatives together. Okay? So positive times a positive is a positive. Negative times a negative is also a positive. Okay, Mr. Panko, then when are we going to have answers that are negative numbers? Here it comes, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. If you have a positive times a negative, or if you have a negative times a positive, the answer is always negative. So basically, we got two sets of rules, but let's show some examples of this. Positive 6 times a negative 3. Positive times a negative. The answer must be negative, negative 18. How about a negative times a positive? How about negative 20 times a positive 12? Negative 20 times a positive 12. That's negative 240. A negative times a positive, or a positive times a negative, the answer is negative in both cases. Negative. So in reality, when this comes to multiplying, it's really just two rules. If the signs are the same, the answer is a positive answer. If the signs are different, the answer is always negative. Well, that's it. Do you see why I told you sometimes people get the multiplying rules confused with the adding rules? Yeah, it's hard. That's why I gave you that sheet. I hope you haven't lost it. If you've lost it, make sure you ask me for a new one, because it's a really good sheet to have, and you should always keep it inside your math book. Okay, thank you. Have a good day.